call the meeting to order. And this is the regular Board of Directors meeting, Marin Municipal Water District for January 21st. So how do we do this?
You just call for a nomination, I think.
Okay, the first item is change of the guard here. So nomination for president.
I am happy to nominate my colleague, Jack Gibson, to be president of the board for the coming year.
Second.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Well, just
Any comments from the public? No comments. So roll call.
I don't think
We
we
do
need a
roll
roll call,
call,
we're
or
all
we
here.
Don't do roll call then. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed.
Okay, and I would like to nominate Cynthia Kohler as the vice president for 2020.
Second.
Any comment? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? None opposed. So do we,
Yes.
I think
Switch
you
it
and
up.
I
do.
switch chairs.
Yes.
peaceful transition of power.
You're a
Well,
model for
let's
us
wait
all.
and see. We're not there yet.
You still got a chance to take a swing here, you know, across paths.
Okay. I don't know that it's necessary we switch places necessarily.
Well, it's easier. You may as well.
All right, all right.
It's a long reach to the gavel, Jack.
That's right.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I did want to briefly note that tradition here is giving the past president a little thank you for the year of service. That will be on its way and coming at a subsequent board meeting.
Thank you, Donna.
And a cake, too.
In the face.
Right, right. We're big on cake here.
Okay, let's see here, where are we?
Committee assignments.
Yeah, approving the calendar, I think,
Yeah,
is next.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the 2020 board calendar?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, can I get a motion, oh, and now committee assignments.
I just wanted to note, President Gibson, that the attachment on this item indicated the 2020 committee assignments. Staff was not intending to jump ahead. That was really the
Right.
2019 for your reference.
Right, okay. Which, I don't know if anybody has any, we can put that off for, till the next meeting, give anybody to put in any recommendations or changes or suggestions. Does that sound okay to everybody? In other words, we'll make those committee assignments at the next board meeting?
That's fine.
I just want to make sure that we're okay to go forward with I guess the current committee assignments would just hold forward then.
Yeah.
That
We do
would
have
be
some,
the
because
alternative.
we have, because
Oh,
we do have
yeah.
meetings coming up, that's all.
Between now and then, we'd go forward with the
Okay.
current ones.
Sure.
And if everybody's satisfied at the next meeting, we'll accept those as the,
Sure.
okay, I guess, let's see, approve the dual notice and regular operations, which that's the change we made, we talked about as a closed session.
If I could, I wanted to share the, in the staff report, staff recommendation for dual noticing with some explanation on the recommendation from staff to the benefit that approach provides to the public in terms of availability of all interested board members to attend and participate in board meetings, yet also allowing the board meetings to the committee meetings, to proceed if there's less than a quorum. And we'll continue the practice of not as a rule bringing action items to the committees. The items would be referred to the board meetings.
Okay.
And also providing 72 hours notice.
Absolutely.
So they'll be noticed as committee regular board meetings, correct?
That's right.
All right, can I get a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any public expression? Anybody in the audience have anything they'd like to comment on, not on the agenda? Yes, come on up.
Thank you. And Jack, congratulations on your appointment.
Thank you.
I'm Eric Morey from Woodacre. I'm here once again to exercise my First Amendment right to petition my government for a redress of grievances. I've been coming here for the past 10 years, repeatedly asking you to confront the ongoing corruption of your $376,000 a year general counsel, Mary Casey, who's sitting right there. The last time I was here, I asked you to look into why ratepayers paid $2,300 for a round-trip plane ticket for the New York friend of one of Mary Casey's goon squad, Bobby Lambert, who runs a company called Confident out of her home in Novato. I even followed up with an email to all 5 of you, including the invoice for the plane ticket, which should have cost way less than $1,000. I have yet to hear a response from any of you why this plane ticket cost so much and why we paid to fly out Bobby Lambert's buddy, Robert Weissman. Another one of Mary Casey's goons is a private detective named Richard Schmidt, who some of you may remember as the one who was conducting a witch hunt against Fairfax police officer Rick Avalar when he died of a heart attack. I've often wondered how people like Jerry Sandusky and Dr. Larry Nasser of U.S. Gymnastics can get away with molesting little children for over 30 years, but thanks to Mary Casey and her goon squad, I've got it all figured out. You see, the parents will come forward to a board like yours and complain that there is malfeasance occurring. The board at Gymnastics goes to their version of Mary Casey and tells her to make this all go away. Then Mary Casey goes to her Richard Schmitz and her Bobby Lamberts and tells them to make it go away. Since they're getting paid by their Mary Casey, they will deliver the result that their Mary Casey wants to see. So, after a lengthy and expensive investigation, they will determine that there was no wrongdoing and that everything is A-OK when in fact it is not. That case closed until the next time and the time after that. And this is exactly what's taking place at MMWD, and the ratepayers are footing the bill. Mary Casey is engaged in malicious prosecution. She has encouraged your employees to commit perjury and conspiracy, both of which are felonies. Several times I've come here and give you concrete examples of nepotism and cronyism, salary and pension spiking, obscene management bureaucrat salaries, and outright incompetence and inefficiency. All I get from you are blank looks. Mary Casey should be in prison, not running our water district. I've asked you to make the corruption at MMWD an agenda item, but you tell me that only Mary Casey can propose agenda items. So at this rate, the corruption at MMWD will continue until we finally elect a board that cares more about the ratepayers than their corrupt management bureaucrats. I have no doubt that right after the November elections, you will once again be raising our rates. It's time for an end to your arrogance and cowardice. A regime change at MMWD is long overdue. Our ratepayers deserve much better than this pusillanimous bunch. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Any other public comment? Hearing none, we'll go to directors and general managers' announcements. Larry?
Nope.
I actually, we've been working with the Secretary of Resources for the state, and one of the things that he's been working on is actually a model that's based on the work done by OneTAM. And they're actually looking at statewide models for horizontal governance agreements, which help various land managers work together to co-manage multi-benefits. And there's a lot of work going on in the world of understanding how multi-benefits work along with multi-investments to actually make that all match up. And it's pretty exciting because on a regular basis, MMWD is mentioned at those meetings, and as is OneTAM. And so I think that that's a credit to the folks who work here.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Okay. And I'm going to apologize if this has been discussed before, but the governor's office just released the water portfolio for the state. So I think it's something that it's important that not only our community knows about, but the staff and the management. It may be something we want to comment on. It's very dense. There's a lot in there, a lot that's very good, and that I think builds on some of the work we've done here. So I think it would be great if it's something that we could become involved with. I think the comment period is open for another month or two. I think it's March.
Could you circulate it to us?
Sure, happy to.
Oh, yeah, good idea. Larry, you have any comments?
None tonight, thanks.
Okay, and I have none.
I might mention a quick thing on the.
Used your turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're done.
But on the heels of what Cynthia just said, he also released his budget.
It's true.
And that, but I actually think the water resiliency plan is open for comment until February 2nd, so it's pretty quick.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Thank you. Ben, you have any announcements? Okay. All right, can I get a motion to approve our consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Takes us to item number 4 on our regular calendar, resolution 8554, authorizing the issuance and sale of refunding water revenue bonds.
So, good evening. There's a revised staff report in front of you because there's some mix-up with the dates. See if you could actually use that revised staff report. So, the item number 4 is to request the board to approve the resolution number 8050.
Excuse me,
8554.
again, this is the revised report?
Yeah, with the edits.
Okay.
Okay, so item number 4, to request the board to approve the resolution number 8554, authorizing the issuance and sale of refunding water revenue bond series 2022. Back in December 2019, the board approved Resolution 8530, authorizing the commencement of refunding 2012 water revenue bonds and selection of Morgan Stanley as our broker, as our underwriter, sorry. So staff reviewed several options to refund the 2012 water revenue bonds, whether issuing taxable refunding bonds or issuing tax-exempt bonds at the future call date of April 2022. So staff determined that issuing tax-exempt bonds at the future call date is more beneficial to the district and brought to the board tonight the two options, two most beneficial refunding options. So if you look at the first page on the staff report, option number 1 is to issue refunding bonds at the par value of $68.44 million that will result in net present value saving of $9.17 million. This cash savings are going to be realized over 30 years, and annual saving amount will be approximately $450,000 annually. And option number 2 is to issue refunding bonds at par value of $76.7 million and receive a lump sum net present value of $8.6 million at issuance date in April 2022. So depending on what option the board is selecting tonight, the bond purchase agreement will be finalized in coming weeks, and staff expects to close the transaction early February 2020. However, the actual refunding issuance will happen in April 2022.
I wanted to touch on the options for a moment. Of course, this is a board decision on which option you'd like to see. Option 1, as we've indicated in the staff report, does help with some operational needs that are not budgeted, namely some positions that have been identified that we would explore at a future board meeting. And we can go into them. There's been identification, possibly an interest of a ranger, additional on the watershed. There's the ERP migration effort. There's an opportunity to think about a position for employee development and developing a district-wide training program, and some other needs we would explore under that option at a later date. Option 2, of course, is the lump sum that would provide for opportunity to move forward projects that are not currently in the CIP or do so in a more accelerated fashion.
Or put it in the bank.
Absolutely, put in the bank, build up a reserve or something like that. In thinking about this, I lean towards option 1, the annualized savings, namely because with the CMF that was established, it did create some stabilization of our capital funding needs, and it also shifted our debt service ratio that allows us to tap the markets where we needed to or interested to move some forward some of these capital projects in the future. But ultimately, it really is a policy decision on where to proceed.
Okay.
Well, it seems to me that, waiting 30 years for $500,000 on $8.6 million,
It doesn't seem like a very good investment. If I'm reading this right, it says,
It's annually, isn't it?
yeah, but it
450 a
takes,
year.
it's 9.17 in present value over 30-year term.
Right.
So the other one is 8.61 now. So,
But the present value is reduced with a discount rate. The actual savings is $450 a year.
Right. It's a annual savings of $450,000 a year under option one. I think on the next page, it spells that out maybe a little better when you look at the options on the lower part of the second page. So it is $450,000 a year annually on option one, and number two is a lump sum savings. The net present value looks marginally better on the annualized if you look at the table one above. But, you know, it's pretty comparable there.
But don't we have more flexibility if we get a lump sum?
Yeah, I think cash at hand always provides more flexibility. It doesn't shift the operating budget that is somewhat constrained for the next 2 years, and helps shape the rate structure going forward in terms of moving some of these positions or adding some of these positions.
Do you know what the discount rate that was used? Or could we find that
Well,
out?
Jim's here.
Yeah, we definitely have folks here that can.
Yeah.
Discount rate on the option one.
Stand up. Good evening, Jim Gibbs from Sperry Capital. Fortunately, Morgan Stanley is with us this evening, and just
The
wanted to
whole
point,
organization.
the
is
entire
here.
bank is
Yeah,
here.
that's
Yes.
great.
Yeah, the
That's
truck,
service.
the truck full of gold is right in the parking lot.
Right.
Anyway, just Dan Kurz, come on up, and Margie Backstrom are both here. They're the ones who really brought this proposal to the district. which
Okay.
is terrific. Do you have a discount rate?
I do. Good evening. I'm Dan Kurz from Morgan Stanley. So the discount rate used is approximately 3% in both scenarios to discount the cash flow savings back to a net present value.
Okay.
So for the uniform savings scenario, which was option one, where it's about $450,000 per year over 30 years, the cash flow savings total over the 30 years adds up to about $15 million.
oh, I got
And it's-
13.5, but did I miscalculate it?
Well, it's not exactly 450 times 30, but it's close to it. So when you discount that back, that's how you get to the 9 million. But if you were to, after 30 years, if you were to add up the cash flow savings each year, it would have totaled about 15 million.
And you don't think if we gave Morgan Stanley 8.6 million, you could do better than that?
Well, we're not getting 8.6 million, but
No, he means to
We
invest.
gave it to you to invest it.
oh,
I don't think we can do that.
We have to
I-
spend
I
in
know.
the
We'd
We'd have
capital.
to, but invest in some way is what he means.
Well,
There's a legal restriction. If we get a lump sum saving of 9 million, we have to spend that in the capital improvement program in 3 years.
Oh, we'd have to spend it in 3
Well,
years.
because of the bonds, huh?
Yeah, in 3 years. I believe.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
There is
Oh, I think
no
I missed
other
that
option.
detail, sorry.
Yeah,
And that-
we don't have that option to spend
Got
it on
it.
somewhere else.
Okay.
okay.
Well, yes, but we're bringing in cash to fund our capital program.
Right.
So we would spend that money first.
Right.
And the net effect would still to have that money available for
Yeah, we still have the 8.6, it
reserves
just
or
wouldn't be
something
that,
like that.
Right.
wouldn't be
exactly.
that dollar, but it'd be that
So I
dollar.
think what I'm hearing you say, Ben, is that I think what I'm hearing is that you guys are saying either way is good.
Yes.
And I think you're saying you'd like to have this in the operating budget.
In order to add a couple of positions
Yeah,
that we'd all been
which we could
talking
certainly
about,
need.
which would be
For that
Really do
relatively
need.
purpose,
painless.
without a rate increase
Right, of
needed
course.
to support those. So,
Yeah.
But the 8.6, I mean, the numbers are pretty close, it seems to me. And, it's, I understand, the present value is a little higher, 500 grand or something.
Yeah, but it's really coming down to the operating versus capital budget issue.
That's really the issue.
Well, I think I'm leaning with Ben. It would be great to be able to, add some capacity that we really need, that we couldn't do if we took it in a lump sum, because it would be in the capital budget.
Sure we could, because it would alleviate 8.6 million from someplace else.
Yeah, but those, Larry, are capital projects. So the only way really to increase the operating budget to support ongoing positions is to increase the operating budget through, increasing revenues with rates.
Right, but if we took out of the 20 million that we normally spend, and we don't spend 20 million, but spend 14, or 15, 13, whatever it is, don't you have 8 million left over?
Right, so that would be money either coming from bonds or the CMF that we've essentially assured the customers would be going towards capital projects.
Right.
So that wouldn't fund operating positions.
Does the entire capital budget come from CMF? I didn't think it did.
Yeah, it comes from Fire Flow and CMF now. We have some residual debt money that we're spending now.
Do we have to make the decision tonight?
I think we should if we're going to keep to the schedule, right? I mean, that's the issue.
Well, I'm talking about it, do we have to make this decision tonight? I understand the big decision, I'm all for that.
Do you want to? Just-
What you're saying is, we could approve the resolution, but
Well,
not pick the option?
I'm asking, not,
Yeah, well,
Yes, but not too long. We have a schedule that we have to stick to. We have to figure out which option we're using because it affects the size of the bond issue.
could we put it off until the finance meeting?
Which is Thursday.
Which is
this
Thursday.
week.
Sure.
I'm all for going for the rest of it. I don't have a problem with the resolution and all that, but I would like to give a little more thought to this. Perhaps if this hadn't shown up tonight, it would be a little easier, but it's a little harder getting hit with it, bang, So,
Yeah, we'll be happy to come back on Thursday.
okay.
So on that, just want to ensure that we'll have, we're making a decision at a committee meeting, this decision, and that the board members that are interested presumably will be able to attend that committee meeting.
Well, there's somebody already checked for quorum. I understood we have a quorum. But that could be wrong.
I believe that I'm going to be there for sure.
Yeah, and
gonna
I'm
be there.
participating.
I have
with my
jury
phone.
duty. I think I agree with Ben on taking periodic payments. Our LAIF account, I think, only makes 1.5%. So in reality, by taking periodic payments, we're almost getting double the return on the money. And I also think it's going to, it will have an effect of stabilizing rates, which was not discussed in the staff report, but I do think is a serious consideration for the board.
Yeah.
So I just think as far as planning rate of return, it's a harder thing to kind of digest, but I think the periodic payment is actually a better deal for us.
Yeah. I mean, if you need a couple days to cogitate it out, I'm hearing Thursday is not that big a deal, and I think it's very helpful that Larry's weighed in now as he does his civic duty on Thursday, and we
I'll
can.
never call you, don't worry.
We'll find out tomorrow night.
Right.
is it necessary that they come back for us to make this decision, or can we?
I live here.
Not for me,
Yeah,
but
but the whole crowd, I mean.
Well, I'll be happy to be here in case
Yeah,
I can help with the
okay, all right.
conversation. So.
Okay.
So-
All right. Can I get a motion on the resolution, leaving the option for the finance committee?
So
Yes.
moved. Or move
Okay,
approval.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right.
Thank you,
so
gentlemen.
it'll
See you
be
Thursday.
on,
Well, thank you, all
yeah,
of you.
Thank you. Be
Thanks
on
for
the
your work.
finance committee Thursday.
Does that give us enough time to agendize it?
sure, you've got 24 hours.
But it's supposed to be
72.
72.
72. We already published the packet.
You've published the packet. Can we
Yeah,
add this
last
to it?
That's a Mary's question.
No.
I'm informed we'd have to do a special meeting notice, which
Okay.
we can do.
Which is doable. Yeah.
Okay, since the rest of the packet's been noticed for 72 hours. Okay.
Yeah, so tomorrow you need to get one out before 9:30. That's all.
Number 5 of our agenda, comprehensive annual financial report and auditors required communication for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019.
So item number 5 is for information only. So you all have the comprehensive annual financial report for fiscal year 19 that we prepared. So staff complete the annual financial audit for fiscal year 2019 with unqualified opinion. So unqualified opinion represent there are no audit findings, no material misstatement.
Yeah.
That's just the audit
great.
standard language.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So attached to that CAFR, which is called Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, is also the required communication with the management. So the report discusses about audit findings, any deficiencies on internal control. And I'm happy to report that we did not have any audit findings or any deficiencies in the internal control. And the only notable item is that the auditor recommend that we update the capitalization policy. So which
update
we are
what?
Capitalization
Oh, policy. Got it.
accounting policy, which we are working on currently. And our audit partner, David Alvey from Maids and Associates here for any questions you might have.
What's our capitalization policy consist of?
Right now, it's a $2,000. It's a threshold amount, and then we don't have a specific language when we can capitalize, or is it aggregate value, or sometimes is it just a one item, one capital asset item, or it hasn't been updated since. Do you remember the date? Yeah, it's been quite long time, and then actually, GFOA government.
Finance officers.
Yeah, finance officers recommend that to increase the value to $5,000. So we're going to look into updating accounting policies as well as other financial policies.
So assets, you would increase the assets that you would account for from 2 to 5,000.
Yeah, for capitalization only. So we're not going to expense that item. Anything over 5,000, we will be capitalizing
Right,
that.
and then you would, what's it called, not discount,
Depreciate over the life of
depreciate
the
it.
asset,
Yeah.
yes.
That sounds good.
Great job on the DCR, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's as strong as it's been for a while.
Yeah.
so we'll bring the actual budget to actual comparison on the next Finance Committee meeting. Just a brief update on the result of fiscal year 19. Any questions for our audit partner? He came all the way from Concord.
Well, you'll miss the
Good
commute
job.
traffic on the way home,
right.
which is good.
Any
Yeah.
questions from the audience?
Was the bike lane tough on you?
All right, we got some vacancies to fill. Lab technician?
Yes, so I have,
That's you, Mike?
yep, I have actually all 3 positions.
Oh, okay.
So the first one is the lab tech, which is our entry-level position in our lab. Our incumbent accepted a position with a other water agency, actually within walking distance of her house, so it's a good career move for her, but we're gonna miss her, she's excellent. Anyway,
Was it a lateral or a promotion, do you know?
slight promotion, yeah.
So do we have different levels of lab techs?
We don't.
Okay.
Yeah, we just have the one position. The next position after this is our senior chemist, or our chemist position.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we do all 3 of these? Why don't you continue on?
Okay.
and then we'll
Why not?
Is
clear 'em all.
Mike, it's not Chris, is it?
No.
He's the head.
Chris is the lab manager,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, you haven't met Lauren. But,
Okay.
The next position is our backflow and reclamation supervisor position, which is held by Dewey Sorensen, who's made some presentations at our doc meetings. So
He's moving
he's
on.
retiring and moving back to Montana. So we're going to miss Dewey. He really transformed that group. But
And
of
had a
course,
passion for backflow prevention. I mean,
very,
really.
oh my gosh, yes, very
Yeah,
passionate.
exactly. Right.
So that's the next position. And then the last one is our Senior Engineer 1 Manager position. This position plans, coordinates, and directs our professional and technical engineering work in the design and construction of the district's facilities, specifically our capital improvement program and our fire flow improvement program. The incumbent has been transferred to the Facilities and Watershed Division, which has created a need to fill that position in our department. And so what we'd like to do is do an internal recruitment and then reclassify the selected candidate.
Great.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Can I get a motion on, any questions, comments from the public? Hearing none, can I get a motion on all?
Move approval for all three position.
I'll second.
Okay, all in
Thank you.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good. All right, future agenda items.
You know, I actually, it's sort of attached to this, but have we ever gotten a report on just position management in the district and what's happening with everything? Yeah, Ben? Sorry. It just brings up for me, have we ever gotten a presentation for the board that talks about position management and where you are now and where you're headed? Because it's regular activity and a lot of it is turnover, but it also would just be nice, I think, for the board to get a comprehensive picture from you on what's going on.
Yeah, if you're, there's kind of two pieces to that. One is kind of a look back on the movement of positions, and are we losing positions as a sign of the market or something else? We could also talk about, the success in recruiting positions and look at that. And I take it that's where you're headed, not...
Yeah, but also knowing where positions are in the agency, And actually, it would be interesting, I think, for us to get a workforce picture, too, in terms of gender, ethnicity, just a picture of that, just to understand that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think, and then we can see the trends over time.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
We'll pull something, we'll track that issue and have probably Vicky, our HR manager, bring that to the board.
And that's not by
At a future
Thursday
meeting.
or anything like that. No, just kidding. But, thank you. Thanks.
We do have, what I call it, there's another committee that is for
Compensation?
compensation, yeah.
Right.
Which might be a place for that to use that as a format. It hasn't met for about 2 years, but there's no reason it couldn't.
Yeah. Okay, let me think about, I was just thinking with compensation, are we sending signals, to staff that we're looking at classification and compensation, and what we're really doing, bargaining is coming up and that sort of stuff. And what we're really doing here, as I understand it, is just really trying to take a look at our workforce outside of, but I'll...
Well, you were the one that brought up the subject of are people leaving because they're getting paid more someplace
Fair
else.
point,
So,
fair point. Yeah.
that's what it triggered.
Okay.
in my
Yeah,
opinion.
man,
We'll
actually,
give it
that's
some
always
thought.
a question for me, because, you've got training and, you've got investments in each of your employees, and are we, is that come-
I hear all the comments, and we'll think about the right committee and put together a thoughtful and see where that goes. And there may be some follow-up questions and opportunities to bring some additional information back.
And this isn't a challenge at all, it's just like, what's the
Yeah, no, I
picture,
think
right?
it's a
Okay.
great item.
Great, thanks.
So just one other item, as long as you're bringing up a new item on the water rights compliance report for Order 9517. I looked at it, and that it looks great what we've been doing, but the Lagunitas Creek Management Plan is going to expire in 2021. So it's just something that we should be kind of thinking about redoing or extending or...
We are actually thinking about that and are beginning to put together the team to undertake the renewal of that.
Okay.
You know what I already mentioned this in a previous meeting, but I'm a part of a group that's working on the streamlining of environmental regulation or environmental permitting with the multi-agency team, and it's been 55 people, but it's included Secretary of Resources, Secretary of Ag, and Secretary of EPA. and working with their senior staff and looking at how do we reduce sort of the impediments for getting these sorts of things dealt with in a way that makes sense. Because a lot of those
You're cutting into my pay, you know that.
well, because a lot of those regulations were actually put in place at a time to prevent damage from happening. But now when you're talking about environmental restoration, we've gotten sort of used to that. So if there's a way of extending the time period of those sorts of things like water rights for natural systems, there's a lot of interest in cleaning that up. So that's a really good point.
Well, the most exciting thing you talked to me about was I've been whining forever about useless data that's collected by the environmental agencies. I'm right now in the middle of 2 annual reports, and there's thousands of data points that are collected that I'm the only one that ever looks at it. We send it to the regulatory agency, but they don't look at it. I mean, they might get to it in 2 years, maybe, but they're more.
Yeah, right.
They turned it in.
Yeah.
And that is just a killer.
So that's the other one of the reviews is also what's the data that's really necessary for everybody, and is it being transmitted in a form that is usable by everybody in the same way? It's sort of logical, isn't it?
Well, that's an interesting question too. In New York, since the mid-'70s, they've accepted everything electronically in a format that's digitally readable. California now takes it in digital format, but it's just a PDF that goes in like that.
That's right.
New York, it has always been on these forms that are you send at that time you faxed them to them, and they used a machine to read the numbers off of the thing, and so at least something looked at it and said, they're out of compliance here, But it was done instantaneously.
So as these things appear, as they apply, we may want to bring them into it just for review as a district.
Yeah.
I did want to briefly further note that, in fact, it was today, and Crystal and I were talking about that issue, and we did touch on, of course, that we'd be bringing it back. We'd be bringing the item to the board as we start that process to get input on ideas we have and you may have on refinements to the updated plan going forward as we kick that very public process off.
And can I just say, in those lines, the sedimentation data that we capture is no longer in line with or consistent with new TMDL standards for SF Bay. So we can adjust what it is we're collecting in order to be informative to that standard. So all of that will be brought up for discussion as we develop the new plan.
One of the things I'm interested in is reducing runoff from parking lots and motor vehicles. So there's a lot of opportunities, very inexpensive opportunities where we could create sort of absorption areas that would absorb it before it went into the creek. So there's some pretty low-hanging fruit we could really pursue.
There's those folks at Occidental.
Yeah.
They've done some very interesting work on, one of the, being a civil engineer, one of the problems is if you look at channels, our approach is usually,
Right.
and not this, not the meander that the nature takes. We just exit as fast as possible.
Right.
That's
So-
shifting now.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's hard to back up though.
Right. No, I know, but it's changing everywhere.
Sure.
So, anything else on future agenda items?
That says discuss, so let's discuss. Anybody have any problems? Okay.
With the meeting, okay.
Meeting
fine to me.
adjourned.
Thanks.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Thank you.